For friends on Zoom, if you would like to speak, just raise your Zoom hand and our clerk will jot your name down. Thank you. If you could all please take your seat, we're about to begin. Again, we thank you for your patience with our delay here. Before we start, a couple quick public service announcements. For an emergency, please note the exits on either side of the chambers and proceed down the stairs. The bathrooms are located out the door to my left, the women's room to the right, men's room is to the left. We allow 30 minutes for public speaking. If you have not done so already, please sign up at the podium or through the Zoom chat by raising your Zoom hand. Please note the council does have rules of decorum for our meetings, including the public speaking portion of the meeting. We ask that respect is shown to all community members, whether they serve on the council, on the staff, or are here as a public member. We are all doing our best to promote the public good, even if our views are in opposition of each other. Not only are we here tonight to listen to the voices of the people, but we are also here to run government proceedings. In order to best serve us all, we cannot have any distractions. When a speaker is addressing the council, no disruptions are permitted. This includes talking over, yelling, and clapping. Freedom of speech allows for uninterrupted time. When this body proceeds with the business of the day, we also need to have no disruptions. As per Open Meeting Law, Section 103, interruption of a speaker or government proceedings will not be tolerated. After one warning, anyone who interrupts the speaker or the proceedings of today's meeting will be removed from chambers. This is a very loud space, so we do hear a lot, and it is hard for us to hear when there's even small chit-chat. I am now calling this special Common Council meeting to order at 7:45 p.m. on March 22nd, 2023. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. May I please have roll call?
Alderman Hill.
Excused.
Alderman Frankel. Here. Alderman Scott Childress. Here. Alderman Worthington. Here. Alderman Muhammad.
Here.
Alderman Davis. Here. Alderman Oliveri. Here. Alderman Shabbat.
Here.
Alderman Hirsch.
Here. Thank you. We have a quorum. We're now entering into the public speaking portion of the meeting. We have allotted 30 minutes for this purpose. Speakers will have 3 minutes. If there are remaining speakers after 30 minutes, I will call for a motion from the council to extend the period for another 30 minutes. Speakers, direct your comments to the chair, as council members cannot engage in debate during this time. Please state your name and address on the record before you begin. For the audience in chambers and on Zoom, there can be no distractions when a speaker is addressing the council. The Common Council has also received written comments for our consideration, and they can be found on the city's website under tonight's agenda. We're going to start with the speakers in chambers before we move to Zoom. So can I have the first speaker, please?
Cheryl Snyder.
Good evening, everybody. Esteemed alder people, President of the Council. We are here and we're entrusted to take care of our community. We're not entrusted to help billionaires get richer. Any process that involves housing and tenants or residents that doesn't involve them, I think, is a rather questionable process, especially today with what's going on. You know, my eyesight's not really good, and my hearing could use some help. But my sense of smell is absolutely insanely strong. And it's very hard to be here because This whole procedure, this whole process, this whole deal reeks. It reeks of betrayal of the people who live in this city. It reeks of the betrayal of the people who want their neighbors and their community to stay stable. It reeks for the reality of what's going to happen. This is a precedent, and the rest of the city will follow suit, and other counties and other municipalities will follow suit, and it stinks. None of us have seen what's in this agreement. We're promised there's language that's been added that's supposed to actually even acknowledge that there's an emergency tenant crisis and there's an ETPA in play. I question whether that language is in there. This is a rather unacceptable process. Do we have 5 minutes?
2 minutes.
Oh, okay. I could speak to so many of this. We've given acres so much. Anybody who can use a parcel viewer can see that there's incredible inequities in the assessments. And I think there's several other big, large complexes in this city who really would be well served
30
to
seconds.
plead their taxes this May. Thank you very much. We've given a $38 million value. We've assessed at 18. I looked at both parcels. Thanks.
Next speaker, please.
Jean Jacobs.
Good evening. My name is Jean Jacobs. Good evening, Madam President, members of the Common Council, my community behind me. And I live at 139 Wall Street, Kingston, New York. I am a lifelong resident. I take great pride in my community. And it enrages me this evening that I even have to come here and speak, because I'm speaking tonight for all of the residents of Stony Run, but I'm also speaking on behalf of humanity. Humanity, I always told my mother that I should have been named Humanity when I was born, because it has lived with me all my life. And in all the offices I have been involved in over 45 years as a community activist, I have always put the people first. We the people. I don't put political parties first. I put the people first, because they are who all of you work for here. You took an oath of office, and you all work for the residents in this community. They rely on you. When they went to the polls and voted for you, they had the confidence in your leadership, and you have failed them. I'm not getting into the semantics tonight and the numbers, because I'm about simplicity. This is wrong. Resolution 58 should go back to committee, and I praise Michelle Hirsch for all that she has done to bring this forward to the community to really know what we are experiencing. And you know what it takes? And I'm great at it. Education. I go forward with the facts. And the facts here smell. No one should have to be living in conditions that are unsafe. And it is your job to make sure that is not occurring. They deserve your leadership, so that they don't have to lay their head down at night and worry if there's going to be an unsafe condition that's going to put them out of their home. Or they should not even worry that they're going to
30
lose
seconds.
their home. That is unconscionable. So I am appealing to all of you tonight to take this resolution 58 and put it back to committee. And ACRE They're billionaires. And we have an audience here filled tonight of poor people that are afraid of their establishment that they could lose it.
Thank you. Your time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Bruce McLean.
We're trying to fix on the YouTube, the camera angle so people watching can see the speakers. So just so you know what's happening.
I have some copies here if anybody wants one. If not, that's perfectly all right. The issues at Stony Run are very complex and overlap a number of interested groups and parties. The one issue that does seem to have a common thread is to rush some sort of solution through the council without considering the after effects. The fact of the matter is, although the city wants to keep rents at present levels, at the same time they want to subsidize the property owners. This will come at passing the alleged fixed cost off on the remainder of the city taxpayers. I do not believe this is either equitable or durable. The fact of the matter is, it appears, based on the attached assessment chart, that the parcels owned are receiving a substantial tax break already of approximately 30% reduction of what they purchased for the property when compared to other comparable parcels in the uptown area, rental properties, that is. But the real cause of this dilemma is the owners paid substantially more for the investment than the property was worth. And now there is little or no return on the investment, and the debt service cannot be covered. Because of a lack of due diligence by the lenders, the investment property is underwater, and the owners and lenders are looking for the tenants and the city residents in whole to make them whole. The fact of the matter is, the real value of the property is probably more in the area of 18 to 25 million, based on the comps utilized, and that estimate would equalize the playing field and reduce the debt portion of the rental component alone by about 30 to 4% per unit, although there will be a 25% increase on the tax portion because the assessment would change on that component. The actual reduction in monthly rent payments would be at least 12% and as much as 27%. The city right now should conduct at once an inspection of all units for violations, including health, fire, and sanitary. Since the alleged housing shortage, 266 families cannot be relocated during this perceived housing shortage, so a solution to fixing the code violations and providing safe housing in the meantime is of utmost importance. At the same time, like any other code violations that go unremediated, the city must take control and solve the violations or hazard themselves. The Building and Safety Division should begin a total inspection of all units as soon as
30
possible.
seconds.
And the violations and remedies sought and a time frame to complete them. At the same time, around-the-clock safety patrol should be implemented, such as one fire unit kept there on the scene while the violations are corrected. The cost would be borne by the landlords and added to the taxes, and if payments are not kept current. Since the rents can be withheld by tenants, for code violations, they should continue to be collected and held in an escrow account
Thank you. Your time is
instead
up.
until completion of the code.
3 minutes is up. Thank you.
That wasn't 2 minutes.
That was 3 minutes.
I can't talk any. Can I finish? Does anybody care if I finish?
No, sir, we do have to follow our rules, but if you have that printed and you want to give it to the council members, then we could do that. Thank you.
Well, I think you better check about the collateral that's pledged for this thing because it has to do with a number of parcels that are all included.
Thank you.
And
If you want to leave your
inspectors were there
comments,
today.
if you want to leave your comments, we'll pass them out. Tony, do you mind grabbing those, please?
I don't know if there's enough there, Tony.
Next speaker, please.
There's a couple more.
Scott Denny.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the Common Council, and the residents of the Stony Run Apartments. My name is Scott Denny. I reside at 291 Hasbrook Avenue, and I've come here this evening to speak in total support of the residents of the Stony Run apartment complex. I actually find it inconceivable and appalling that the Common Council is even entertaining any type of a financial bailout brought by the mayor for the extremely wealthy venture capitalist group Acre, who are currently operating what is an extremely distressed property. It is completely obvious that Mayor Noble, Corporation Council, and select members of the council, for whatever reason, are extremely motivated to fast-track this as quickly as possible, yet the mayor has not even the courage to stand before these residents or the city council and as they march to his marching orders. Having spoken with some of the residents, it is my understanding that Alderman Barbara Hill, or any other council member for that matter, have never even taken the time to go visit the property or speak with the residents that are here this evening. Yet you were prepared to vote and make a decision that in all likelihood will negatively affect each and every resident of that complex and their future, some of whom have lived there literally for decades. It is important to note that following a short meeting this afternoon with Rennie Scott Childress, I was informed that the council does not know who Acres lender is or what the exact status is of the mortgage, which is in fact held by Freddie Mac and is reckless to say the very least. At this point in time, I would urge each and every tenant, both collectively and individually, to contact Freddie Mac as quickly as possible and express their deep concerns due to the total lack of transparency on the part of ACRA and the City Hall, as it is imperative that you protect your interest and immediately request that the lender become involved while you seek their help and their guidance. At risk of being redundant, it is disgraceful that the mayor and the council thus far have only spoken about bailing out Acre while spending little to no time whatsoever speaking to the residents, their concerns, their needs, and most importantly, the uncertainty of their future. At this point, I would urge each and every council member to immediately focus on the residents and their well-being before making what I consider to be an extremely reckless and blind decision with the council not even having all of the facts. In closing, I stand in complete solidarity with the tenants of Stony Run, and I am asking
30
each and every
seconds.
council member to delay any vote this evening and instead take the necessary time to gather your facts and avoid making a hasty and reckless decision that could eventually negatively affect the residents of Stony Run indefinitely. Please proceed this evening with empathy and caution, as it is imperative that our constituents must always come first. I would also like to take a moment to thank Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch for all her hard work to protect these people behind me. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Rebecca Martin.
Good evening. Nice to see you. I have a few comments and questions to put on the record this evening. First, the council is hearing from tenants who will be directly impacted by the city entering into the acre agreement as it currently stands. The tenants' remaining concerns indicate that there is more that needs to be discussed and addressed. If the council could use its committee work to facilitate the internal and external interests rather than take a paternal approach of we know what's best, it could go a lot further in not only getting something of such magnitude right, but encourage better collaboration between the council members and the large community at large. I've watched the recent Laws and Rules committee meeting, and it wasn't clear to me why the council felt it was important to hold a special meeting on this matter, and especially out ahead of the meeting that is scheduled between the tenants and the mayor. Furthermore, it's the legislative and not the executive branch that is currently debating these terms. And for that reason, it is more important and meaningful for the council at this time to do more committee work on the agreement with the affected parties. The city is currently, these are bullet points, the city is currently in the midst of its seeker process review for Kingston's form-based code, which will define the AMI for affordable housing at this time in Kingston. As a step in the seeker process, the city has invited the public to provide comments during a public hearing that is scheduled for tomorrow evening, where there are outstanding questions still regarding the city's data and defining affordable as 80% AMI and workforce is 120% AMI, respectively. A vote this evening to approve workforce housing at 120% AMI will potentially set a precedent and preempt both the public hearing and the form-based code process. On that subject, in your resolution tonight, it states that the council uses AMI within the city's municipal boundaries. When the data that is driving decisions about AMI in the city's form-based code is stated to be guided by Ulster County. According to the public comments of the Kingston Community Review,
30 seconds.
okay, draft 2.0, staff said that Ulster County area median income figure is referenced because HUD doesn't publish AMI levels specific to Kingston. And so I'm curious what data is driving the acre agreement AMI. 120% AMI, according to HUD, is the very high end of moderate income, with a range of 81 to 120%. In your resolution tonight, it says that 120%, I know
Thank
I'm
you.
over.
That's time's up.
I'll submit my comments.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Next speaker, please.
Teresa Misasi.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Misasi.
If you could just pull the mic down, just the stance. That's it. Thank you, Scott.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Teresa Misasi, and I live at Stony Run for 30 years.
If you could just speak closer to the microphone, that would help.
Okay.
No, we're going to do this different.
Okay. Oh, should I just hold? Oh, okay. Before any of
Thank you. You good?
before any of you allow the mayors to make this deal with Acre on workforce housing, you shall have to spend a week in my apartment. I regularly have floods with sewage, and Lincoln Management and Acre landlords have done nothing to rectify the situation. I can plainly see how the agreement will go. It will allow Stony Run rents to increase, driving the current residents out, and then they will fix up to rent to non-local people in these current times. Allowing the mayor to make this deals that affect residents without allowing them to advocate for themselves is displacement. I have to say, I have lived there for 30 years. These landlords are the worst ever. It's a mess. And anyone can come and see my apartment at any time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
It looks like Jenna, and I don't know what the last name is. If you could tell us what that is
When you come up, if you could just say your full name for the record. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jenna Goldstein, and I am the tenant organizer for The Many. I have been working closely with the residents at Stony Run and the tenants union. I sincerely encourage you to include the amendments put forth by the tenants union. They have been independently reviewed by a lawyer and will add greater protections to this regulatory agreement. The tenants are coming to the table in good faith, and I implore you to meet them halfway. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Next speaker, please.
Mary, is it Miller?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Million, and I've been a Stony Run resident for a number of years. My daughter lives here, my friends live here, my community is here. When I moved into Stony Run, it was one of the best places to live in Kingston, but I have watched it steadily deteriorate as Acre and Lincoln refuse to make the necessary improvements. I could stand here and list off the blatant code violations like the lack of emergency exit signs or the sewage that regularly backs up into the ground floor apartments. But tonight I want to focus on this deal that is being misrepresented to the public and the Common Council. ACA miscalculated how much they would need to spend on repairs. So now they are making a deal with the city of Kingston that will give them a tax break under Section 581A. At the expense of the residents sitting here tonight, what do we get in exchange? Barely affordable housing under ETPA and a guarantee of rent increase up to $2,800 per month under the proposed workforce housing deal. As a constituent of Alderman Hill, I am floored that she, along with the council, are voting on this deal to go forward, even as so many tenants have expressed their dissatisfaction with this deal. If you think it's a good deal, explain it to us. How can you all vote to pass an agreement that is so many of your voters feel will displace them? I am asking you to delay authorizing this resolution until the tenants can feel confident that their best interest is being represented. And I am imploring you to add the amendments that the tenants union has put forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Charles Sanchez.
Good evening, President Schott and Common Council. My name is Charles Sanchez. I live in Kingston as a tenant in Dutch Village. I'm not only here to support Stony Run tenants, but also because Mayor Noble is quoted in a February 17th Daily Freeman article stating he encourages other owners of market rate apartment complexes to consider entering into similar agreements. First, tenants are the backbone of Kingston, literally. Secondly, as the National League of Cities states and advised me, city council's function includes oversee the performance of local public employees, respond to constituent needs and complaints, represent the community to other levels of government, other levels such as the mayor. A few questions that I had asked previously, which I'll touch on again, with a few additional questions. First, have each of you, as the City Common Council, actually reviewed the regulatory agreement and had your own legal counsel, independent of the Mayor's Corporation Council, review and properly advise you? You don't need to respond, but the likely answer is no. Two, everybody says the term acre. However, are you familiar with the name Pearlmark? Pearlmark is actually Acre's partner in the acquisition of Stony Run. If you're not familiar, Pearlmark was acquired in November 2022 by Koning, and they're putting together a new $400 million fund aimed at distressed real estate. Kind of a coincidence. Three, where does the money come from to fund this joint venture between Village Propco LLC and Kingston Workforce Housing Development Fund Corporation? The reserve requirements to be set up for the maintenance and repair costs. What does the mayor do if and when this reserve fund is exhausted before all property maintenance codes are actually remedied? Four, besides the direct subsidy cost, any program imposes some administrative costs on the government agency in charge of implementation. Staff time must be allotted, etc. If your building safety cannot enforce current
seconds.
local and New York State standards and codes, how will your government actually implement and enforce this? Lastly, almost lastly, 120% of AMI. You were all told by Acre that they did that to get a larger loan amount. Do you all want to be accomplices to bank fraud when we do contact Freddie Mac? That's a question. I implore you to include the amendments put forth by the Stony Run tenants.
Thank you. Time is
and you
up.
all stood for the
Thank
Pledge
you.
of Allegiance stating and justice
thank
for all,
you.
yet you do not stand for your own
Time is up.
constituents'
Thank
justice.
you. Next speaker, please.
Jonathan Kaufman.
Hello, can you hear me? My name is Jonathan Kaufman. I'm a Stony Run resident of 4 years now. I grew up in Saugerties and have lived in different parts of the city of Kingston for over a decade. I attended SUNY New Paltz and SUNY Oneonta, and I graduated in 2011 with a degree in education. At 34 years old, I have had a diverse range of jobs, from a high school teacher, a Kingston City employee. I've worked with Ulster County Habitat for Humanity, to now as a driver for a local third-generation family-run dry cleaner. While there are many issues I feel I could take time to discuss, the most prominent and immediate is the decaying of our democracy. Stony Run residents, the landlord, city government, we all have eyes on us watching, ears listening. It's because we are a part of something bigger than us and others want to see what happens next. We're talking about people's livelihoods. I ask you all this, is this struggle something you would want for your families, the loved ones in your lives? This is a simple matter of transparency, or to our frustration, the lack thereof. Tenants should be included from the very beginning with all these discussions. We should have a seat at the table and be able to be a part of the conversation. Anything less than this is shameful and truly a failure on behalf of our representatives to actually represent us, the people. The truth is, even after all this standing up for ourselves, advocating and fighting, we were still never asked to be a part of the conversation. Last week, I attended the Rules and Laws meeting, which was open to the public, but with no comments allowed. What transpired was discouraging, to say the least. The landlord and legal representation were allowed to speak with Rules and Laws. Rules and Laws were allowed to ask questions and seek answers. Us tenants could only sit back and try to keep our mouths shut. The majority of Rules and Laws present that night were common council members who, just the week prior, voted to send this very matter back to Rules and Laws, aka themselves. And here we all are now. Throughout this whole process, we tenants might as well have had duct tape over our mouths. You may have had the very best intentions in mind, but how can this be true if our concerns, our very voices, were never heard? While Rules and Laws made the public leave the room during last week's meeting to discuss the specifics with their lawyer, us residents had some time to chat with the landlord briefly. Among other things, he brought up contractors hesitating to continue to work with them because of the ongoing maintenance issues, in addition to negative media coverage. This media coverage is only negative because it does not fit the narrative he needs in order to profit from this deal. We, the tenants, have been dealing with these maintenance issues for years, throughout different owners, many of us suffering physically and mentally because of it. Acker is just another super wealthy business looking out for its own well-being. They're just another landlord who bought first and asked questions later. And we residents are still the ones paying for it. We're talking about upwards of 60-year-old buildings and infrastructure. There's a need for maintenance and replacements. There's a need for accountability. We need your help. To conclude, we are asking that you please add in the amendments put forth by the tenants union. Thank you all for your time, and thank you to those of you that are truly listening to us and trying to do your part to help.
Council members, we've gotten to the 30 minutes. So can I have a motion? Motion by Rennie Scott Childress to extend to another 30 minutes. Second by Rita Worthington. All in favor? All right, we have another 30 minutes. Next speaker, please.
Shane Gallo.
Thank you, Madam President. On the matter at hand before you, I'm going to just ask you a series of questions very quickly. Who does the council work for? Well, we know you don't work for all the stakeholders who are here, the taxpayers, the tenants, the small mom and pop landlords. We know that's obvious. We also know that the building department, as evidenced by what Teresa stated, isn't working for the Stony Run tenants or anyone. We also know that the assessor and the corp counsel isn't working for all stakeholders. So there's been no transparency, there's been no communication, there's no specificity with respect to the plans that have been presented to the tenants and to the taxpayers. What you've accomplished is indifference, and you have intentionally disenfranchised every stakeholder in this community. Now, we start with where we came from. You might want to go back in an article in Forbes magazine 3 years ago where Ryan and Noble respectively said that we're the hottest real estate market in the United States. Where do you think Acre came from? Where do you think their investors in the Cayman Islands came from? From that goodwill effort to welcome, open the mat, so to speak. There was an article in The City today, which is a publication, a blog in New York City. And there's a 39-year-old from Ulster County who's living in a hotel at $349 a week. And there's a B&B owner from Woodstock, from New Jersey, who has 2 properties for B&Bs. She charges $241 a night. She's upset because Woodstock just placed restrictions on B&Bs. So here's the news flash. Who do you work for? You're not working for all stakeholders. And you heard tonight what's happened. And you heard tonight from Mr. Sanchez what's going on with these investors. And it's all about bailing out a $38 million predator investor. And it all comes from, as I said, 3 years ago and the influx, and we're paying the price for it. And this lunch bucket community can no longer sustain subsidizing predator investors, private equity. They don't care about us, and we don't care about them. And the threat that they're going to teeter in default, or literally default, they'll be in receivership. The tenants ain't going nowhere. You know that. The AG, Ms. James, isn't going to let them go anywhere. So suffice to say, stop it with the gaslighting, stop it with the politics, stop it with the intimidation, stop it with the intentional disenfranchising. Get
30
busy,
seconds.
get your city agencies together and start to enforce the code at Stony Run and do the right thing for the tenants and do the right thing for the taxpayers, and particularly take into account the seniors 60, 70, 80 years old who are living on one pension source of income. And you expect them to shoulder the burden of a $38 million bailout? Shame on all of you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Barbara Altamari.
Next speaker, please.
Barbara Altamari.
Hello, my name is Barbara Altamari, and I have been a tenant at Stony Run for 45 years. I am a widow, and I do not know if I'll be able to continue to live at Stony Run due to this resolution and the rent of 120% of AMI. As a member of the Stony Run Tenants Union, I ask you, our elected officials, to listen to us and give us a voice in this process. What, if any, is the benefit of the city to the City of Kingston, the taxpayers, and the tenants of this resolution if it's approved? Who does it benefit? The Acre Group? Obviously, as they would be out of debt. Please do not vote on this resolution until you have had sufficient time to review the 5 tenants' amendments. Regarding the renovations that the Acre Group claims that they have made, there are unsafe conditions in areas in need of immediate repair. Stairs, outside broken lights, potholes, tree limbs down, no outside lighting, broken shingles on the ground, unfinished and unsafe construction areas, etc. The property has gone downhill severely since the Acre Group bought it. It is a constant struggle to have any repairs or things corrected. This past Sunday, my toilet was clogged and water was overflowing onto my entire bathroom floor. This is the 4th time this has happened and is not anything I have done. I live on the bottom floor. I called the emergency number and no one came until Monday to fix it. This is unacceptable. I'm sure you would not like to live under these conditions. I propose that Mayor Noble and you council members visit Stony Run and take a tour of the complex to see what condition it is currently in. I suggest that you meet with the tenants to hear their comments and concerns before any final decision is made. Thank you for your time, and I urge all of you to make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Daniel Atana.
Hello, Common Council and President Shout. My name is Daniel Atona. I live in Poughkeepsie, but I work in Kingston, and I'm also on the Mid-Hudson Valley DSA Steering Committee. Mid-Hudson Valley DSA covers the counties of Dutchess, Orange, and Ulster. Our members have knocked on thousands of doors throughout Kingston to elect pro-tenant candidates like Legislator Erner and Assemblymember Setstra, and we also organize tenants for the historic Rent Guidelines Board hearings. Let's start on basic principles. On principle, it is wrong to force a deal on tenants without involving tenants in the discussion. What message is it going to send to tenants throughout this city if the council allows the mayor to unilaterally negotiate a deal without the participation of and over the objection of the Stony Run Tenants Union? Bless you. Please bring the tenants into the discussion and approve these following amendments proposed by the Tenants Union. Ensuring ETPA protections for current and future tenants, prohibiting deregulation, giving tenants seats on the board that will manage Stony Run, lowering the AMI percentage to 70 to 100%, and stop the tax breaks for landlords. And let's be clear, the Stony Run Tenants Union speaks for the tenants at Stony Run. They said in a statement that they're against this process and against this deal, so we should all be against this process and against this deal. Please don't betray the union. Solidarity with the tenants forever. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Alana Ross.
Is there a possibility for me to actually speak in the order that I was called instead of being called up early?
This is the order.
There was somebody else who was in front of me, but apparently he's not speaking. Okay. Dan Ahouse was actually signed up in front of me. I'm wondering if I could go after him.
It's the Daniel Atona who spoke.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Sorry.
Okay, so we've heard a lot of poppycock from Team Acre, and one of the lies we've heard is the talk about the default, about the possible default, and the fact that they use the word technical about this default should be a red flag that it may not be entirely true, because technical can mean, maybe there was a stamp put on at the wrong time. And besides which, we know that the lenders and the investors who buy these securitized mortgages, they're not interested in foreclosing. They're interested in getting their money. Now, I actually did spend the day, part of the day, researching what's going on at the institutions that finance and securitize the sort of loans that I believe that ACRE is asking for. And as of today, these institutions are still financing and securitizing these loans and selling them on the outside market to outside investors. So this tall tale is nothing but the impending default. It is nothing but a red herring. So I guess the next step is to go on to the Common Council, red herrings that the Common Council may be saying. And I think, as some of you know, I'm going through chemotherapy, so I want you to know that whatever I have said, will say tonight, or will say in the future, is transcended by my compassion for anybody who's suffering as I am. But now, we know the way it works sometimes, that an economic development specialist, let's say, will come up to a council person and say, it's not really the time for you to be mayor right now, but we will support you if you support these projects. Now, do we know that this has happened? I don't know for sure, but I can tell you something that has happened. There's another alderperson who was very supportive, let's say, of the Kingstonian pilot, and for those of you who don't know, it's another boondoggle. And that alderperson told source number one, who told me that the reason that the alderperson supported that tax break was because his property valuation would increase, which of course gives him all kinds of benefits, like to get a better mortgage or, smaller payments. Source number two, who does not know source number one, came to me and said that that same alderperson tried to persuade him to support the Kingstonian pilot because
30
that source
seconds.
number two's property valuation would go up. So let's call this what it is. It's a failure of ethics on the part of the Common Council, because there are others of you who share it. So let's go back to why they're pushing this loan now. If it's not because of default, could it be to bolster the revenue of the investors? So for meat on the bone, in the immortal words of one of the developers, I think that's the reason why. Is that what you want to do? Is really that what you want to do? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
June Neiman.
Hello, members of council. My name is June Neiman. So I organize with For the Many, as you all know. Yeah, I just want to walk through what this process has been from our side of the bench. Obviously, you have your own experiences. But on February 21st, right, I started getting calls from tenants who are confused and angry about this deal being pushed through without them, right? And shortly after, found out that a member of this body intentionally misrepresented the support for this proposal by tenants, as did Will Brocker in an executive session with all of you. So I hope it's clear from this meeting and from prior meetings that we've had that that is not the case, and tenants clearly do not support this deal as written, especially since they were not involved with making it, right? So we asked you all to delay it so that we could speak to a lawyer. We did, right? We did speak to a lawyer. He'll be speaking later tonight. And yeah, they removed the regulatory agreement, who immediately cited a wide variety of issues with it because he has experience with housing law, which might not be the case with the lawyers that you may have consulted with, right? So including the fact that the actual regulatory agreement specifies that rent would go up to workforce housing rate once units are vacant, which is illegal under ETPA, right? The landlords and the mayor have consistently asserted that this is not a problem, right? Because ETPA will always override the regulatory agreement as a local law. What they may have forgot to mention is that if Acre chose to increase the rents, despite that, it would take tenants 5 to 6 years to settle that in court. So that is essentially what we're doing here. You're saying it's fine for them to do this, and just tenants will have to figure it out later, right? Even if ETPA does protect them, they'll still have to go through a long and extended legal process, right? So I think what you should all know is that current tenants are already being charged illegally high rents, right? In August, after you all froze the rent by passing ETPA, right, and joining the housing emergency, all these tenants got letters saying that if they didn't pay increased rents immediately, that they would have to then, if they waited, that they have to pay even higher increased amounts of rent, right? A lot of tenants are paying those increased rents, which are illegal under ETPA. When I've asked Will about this, he's promised, oh, they'll get refunds, they'll get fully refunded. Where are those refunds? It's been 8 to 9 months. So there's already a precedent for these landlords charging illegally high rents, right? And then letting tenants deal with the aftermath. So what you're doing right now by supporting this without providing protection for future tenants when tenants move out and create vacancies is essentially allowing tenants to fall into that trap. So I know that many of you think this is a good deal. I also know that none of you have actually have the regulatory agreement, right, or have able to take it home with you.
30
and
seconds,
for certain
please.
that none of you have reviewed it with an actual housing lawyer, which the city clearly maybe does not have on staff. So the amendments proposed tonight would actually protect current and future tenants and would give these tenants a say in their own homes, which they've not had in years. Right? So rushing this deal through tonight without adopting these amendments would be political malpractice with political consequences. And I deeply urge you all not to make that mistake. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Roger Joshak.
Good evening, I'm Roger Jagu. I live in Stony Run. And I'm going to make this brief for the sake of not being super repetitive. Stony Run has 266 units that are going to be directly affected by Resolution 58. That's a lot of housing. For a city the size of Kingston, I mean, we have to consider just Stony Run alone, 266 units. I'm not going to pretend to really understand every line of Resolution 58, and a lot of that is because the terms of this resolution were not made public till the very last minute. And it seems so that it can be pushed through while no one was looking. This resolution should not be rushed through as it appears to be. You guys need to put the brakes on it for the sake of clarity and transparency so that all parties have a chance to understand this resolution and how it affects them directly so that we all can have a more educated conversation regarding this. ETPA came to Kingston through long, ongoing conversations. When this affects so many lives, why are we rushing this through?
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Eric Jarman.
Good evening. I am going to read testimony that was provided 2 days ago, along with the regulatory agreement I attached and the proposed amendments that our lawyer provided. Council members, in case you do not know who I am, my name is Eric D. Jarman. I am a resident of Kingston for the past 3+ years, of which I have lived solely at Stony Run Apartments. I am a member also of the 305 Hurley Avenue Tenants Union Organizing Committee. I am reaching out to both protest the calling of the upcoming, or tonight's meeting, for Resolution 58 on the basis that you all have really not understood the requirements risk of moving so fast in approving a resolution and regulatory agreement work product produced by Acre Company. Last week, after our organizing committee had the regulatory agreement inspected by a legal expert, we informed your body that there were clauses in it that sought to abrogate the primary regulatory agreement of ETPA. Due to the lack of transparency and insistence on keeping this document secret, you have enabled Acre and Mayor Noble to seed much unneeded speculation around this proposal. Despite shutting down debate and with limited public comment, 2 weeks ago you learned that our tenants union was left completely out of this conversation with Acre and City Hall. Last week, in a private session to which we all invited ourselves to witness Acre's Will Brocker play hard and fast semantically to the few questions that you did pose to him, when Councilmember Oliveri pointedly asked the question of Corporation Counsel if any testimony of Acre that evening was false, Councilman Scott Childress called attorney-client privilege just before we were all asked to wait outside. It was hard sitting in silence while the contents of the regulatory agreement were misrepresented. When the meeting resumed, the illegality of evading ETPA was marked for correction in a new draft. Yet, how many of you know that Section 1 in the draft, quoting Real Property Tax Law Section 581-A, assessment of residential property as
30 seconds.
is authorizing Acre companies to get a tax break even without there being a payment in lieu of tax agreement. This is what I mean by moving so fast that you miss that huge glaring problem even after pointedly asking the Corporation Counsel if Acre was being truthful. In risk assessment, one has to know what type of risk is known as opportunity and what type of risk is known as a threat. When the scope of work is not clearly understood and the information keeps changing too fast.
Thank you. Your time's up. Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Teresa Green.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Teresa Green. I am a resident of Stony Run. I have sent just about everybody emails, had some phone calls. I am from New Jersey, moved here in 2001. I left New Jersey to get out of politics. I am a former legislative aide to council, a Democratic chairman who has been a part of the Democratic machine of getting many officials in office every election I was on. I am a former church administrator here. Now I am a person who wanted to be at home, work a business, and help out veterans and sell health care products. And I had a Bible study of about 250 people globally every morning. I wasn't looking for this. I feel like I've been called back into it. I've been in Kingston and Stony Run since 2005. I've never seen a community like Kingston. So many people who have never been in a tenants union, a block association, a tenants association, or even a council chambers. But take note, we are uniting because of this situation. The elected officials have found it a norm and a precedence is set in making choices for their districts and their constituents without tapping into the concerns of the constituents. It is crazy here. The power is in the people, but here in Kingston, it is not. All the power is wielded by the public officials, mayor, and council. Here tonight before me are a group of officials who are mostly homeowners with gang mentality, advocating for the tenants. And we are the tenants who are advocating on behalf of the tenants. Woo. This is an operating dictatorship. All right? Ask your higher power, the Holy Spirit, to help you make the right decision for the people and move on its behalf. You are reelected on your records. The decisions you make regarding the RA and the Resolution 58 will be your record. And as we will continue to unite, the power will be of the people, the real democratic process, not the dictatorship that is being played out here in this matter. Thank you.
We're going to switch to Zoom because that's all who signed up in chambers. We'll switch to Zoom to do the speakers there, and then I'll open up the floor in chambers, and then I'll open up the floor in Zoom. If anybody is in Zoom listening and has not raised their hands, please do so. Next speaker, please.
Michael McKee.
Good evening. My name is Michael McKee. I am an organizer and advocate. I am the treasurer of the Tenants Political Action Committee, and I have been working with the tenants of Stony Run for the last several months, and I've been working with the tenants in Kingston for implementation of the Emergency Tenant Protection Act. I testify this evening in opposition to Resolution 58, reject this measure, start the process all over, and this time involve the residents of Stony Run in the negotiations over the future of their homes. The condescension and contempt that most of the elected officials of Kingston have shown for the Stony Run tenants is shocking, but not surprising. This is all too typical of politicians who call themselves Democrats, who talk of community empowerment and transparency, but who cry foul the moment constituents organize to hold them accountable, which is their job, to hold you accountable. This deal smells to high heaven. Despite all your rhetoric about affordability and protecting tenants, what you are really doing is bailing out some speculators who made a bad investment, including a $28 million windfall for the prior owners, and have subjected the residents of Stony Run to deplorable physical conditions and illegal behavior. This illegal behavior includes threatening tenants last August, when rents were legally frozen after the city opted into the ETPA, to sign illegal leases and pay illegal rent increases. To be clear, this is not a proposed conversion of a market rate complex, as the mayor states. Stony Run is no longer market rate. It is a proposed conversion of a rent-regulated complex. All the concocted reasons for tonight's emergency meeting, acres default, the prospect of foreclosure, even the failure of some banks, is just an excuse for ignoring these residents, treating them as recalcitrant children who couldn't possibly know what is good for them. But you are abrogating your responsibility while hypocritically complaining that the mayor has, quote, put you in this position. It is unacceptable for any agreement affecting Stony Run to go forward without the tenants being at the table and without an understanding that the tenants will have a meaningful role in supervising what happens to their homes going forward. Incorporate the proposed amendments the Stony residents have proposed into this resolution, or send it back to committee and start over. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Next speaker, please.
Louis Cholden Brown.
Good evening. My name is Louis Cholden Brown. I'm an attorney and a resident in Article 11 Housing Development Fund Co-op. I'm speaking tonight to make clear that it is not 305 Hurley Avenue tenants, but rather the common council members who have been misled about this deal. Notwithstanding the wordplay that's been deployed in support of this agreement, it is undeniably illegal as drafted, and it absolutely delivers a financial benefit to Acre without any wins for Kingston residents. The tenants here tonight are already protected by EPA. What they're advocating for is the long-term affordability of the complex for future generations and the protection of the city budget. Neither of these goals is served by Reso 58. The council admirably gave the tenants more time to review the deal, but now needs to demonstrate that it's willing to accept a response other than gratitude for the deal. If you vote to authorize the mayor to move forward tonight, you will be doing so over the opposition of not only these residents, but local media and citizens citywide as well. It's incumbent upon the council to face the implications of this vote. Sending the tenants to negotiate with the mayor, which tonight's vote would deny them the time to do in a meaningful way without enforceable guardrails, is looking the other way on numerous irregularities. I want to quickly share a few brief truths that may have gotten lost. First, ETPA applies to all tenants in perpetuity during its applicability. Acre has admitted it, members of the council have admitted it, and yet the Reso and the draft regulatory agreement deny it. Second, Acre will get a break on their taxes. The regulatory agreement states that plain. It may not be a pilot or abatement, as the mayor unhelpfully repeats on a regular basis, but it is definitely a giveaway because the regulatory agreement does not actually restrict rents. Third, accelerating this process serves no purpose but profits and protects not one tenant. Foreclosure, bankruptcy, default, and other inferior potentialities, including the banking crisis, will have zero effect on the stabilized status of this property. These are all undisputed facts that should give you great pause. I urge you to bind the mayor to these amendments proposed by the tenants, or at the very least, delay this vote and ensure that you're protecting tenants and the public fisc, not handing the mayor free rein.
Council, can I have another motion to extend? Motion by Rennie Scott Childress, second by Rita Worthington. All in favor? Opposed? We have another 30 minutes of public speaking. Next speaker, please.
Sarah, and we'll need your last name.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're good.
Yeah, it's Sarah Wank. Hi, thank you. I've been listening and with great regard to so many articulate people describing in really frightening detail what a bad deal this is, and just want to add my support to them. I feel like everything you need to know about Stony Run and how it's managed is you can find out by looking at their sign, which they changed to Stony Run at the Stockade. They're like miles away from the Stockade, but they're trying to hook themselves into what's happening in Kingston and the gentrification and property value ballooning that we're all seeing there. I hope everyone on the council had a chance to read the letter that Neil Millens wrote. It was published in Kingston Wire and mailed to all of you. If even a tiny fraction of the questions that he raised or the questions that any of the previous speakers raised are true, and I'm sure that more than a tiny fraction of them are, the council has a responsibility to not vote on this and look at it more carefully and understand what they're doing. I think the fact that Alderwoman Hill is not present tonight is shocking. This is her ward. These are her constituents. I've seen a lot of bad legislating going on in Kingston since I have lived here, but this is shocking. And I hope that the council has enough self-respect to take a step back, send this back to committee, look it over really, really carefully, and understand what they're doing before they vote. As everyone before me has said, you are there to represent the people, not the mayor, not the corporation council, the people of Kingston who voted for you. So please do your jobs. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Bill Erner.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Phil. You're all set.
Thank you. Good evening, President Schott, Common Council, people of Kingston and beyond. Last night at the county legislature, we had a public hearing on making affordable housing a purpose of Ulster County. We heard from at least 24 speakers, several of whom don't have a permanent home right now, several of whom have been evicted from homes in the past, and all of whom are concerned gravely, fundamentally about the survival of the people. You have before you an opportunity to go back and listen to the tenants about whom this agreement is. And so I stand with those tenants, and I urge you to do the same. Thank you.
Those are all the speakers we have on Zoom. Is there anybody else in chambers who has not spoken who wishes to? I saw his hand first. So just come up, and if you could say your name for the full name for the record before you address the council. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ann Ames, President Stout, Board, Assembly, Alderman. I'm sorry, I always call you people the wrong names. At any rate, I'm going to make this really short. You know, when I went to school and I tried to understand economics, I had to take that class. And it was like, it basically was who gets what, when, and how. Basically, that's all it is. And when I look at this situation here at Stony Run, we can just draw two columns. You got the developers on this side, you got the union on this side. Who is benefiting from what is being proposed? It's really simple to me to do that. And since we don't have, a referendum, we don't have direct participatory democracy, then the people rely on the representatives to represent their voices. And I have been disappointed quite a few times here in these chambers. The people come out and they say this is what they want or this is what they don't want, and it doesn't seem to be effective. I'm proposing something. I know it's probably not going to go through, but maybe whatever. Let's think about it. Maybe we need to start having a little town hall with our ward people, because we don't have a dialogue with you guys. We get up here and we say yaka yaka yaka, and you guys don't say anything back, but we hear you when the votes come in. and I think that we could really benefit from, some informal thing, summertime, we could even have a barbecue and just talk about what's going on because we don't feel like we're being listened to. That's it for me tonight.
Come on up. I saw hands in the back. Right.
Hi, my name is Charlotte Lloyd. I've lived in Kingston my whole life, and I've lived at Stony Run for 2 years, and I'm an active member of the tenants union. My mom always told me to read papers before I signed them to protect myself, and it's very unsettling that the council would approve workforce housing without allowing the tenants union to review. It's also unclear to me if the council has personally reviewed the workforce housing proposal either. The council is choosing to trust Acre on our behalf by allowing this deal. Acre is a company with a goal to make more money however possible. I don't think they're humanitarians. They don't have a good track record of taking care of their tenants with the money they do have. So how are we to trust them to keep us housed when given the chance to increase rents past what Kingston residents can afford? ETPA is protecting tenants for now, but this deal allows Acre to price out people from their homes in the future. I know bringing more business and more money into Kingston would be amazing, but it cannot be done by stepping on long-time Kingston residents. We are Kingston. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in chambers who wishes to speak? Come on up.
Hi, I'm Mika Marhale. So, who benefits?
Can you just speak a little closer and then
Sure.
say your name one more time?
Yeah, it's Mika Marhale, and I was asking who benefits in this scenario because it certainly isn't the tenants. Who do you represent? Like seriously, I have been homeless. I know what these folks fear, and you're enabling it. Please call this off for now. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. President Short, council members. My name is Frank Waters. I'm a community leader here in Kingston. This is my second time coming to stand in solidarity with our tenants here at Stony Run. The challenge that I see here tonight is a consistent lack of transparency in the process, right? This has been an ongoing cry, from citizens, from a variety of projects in the community, and it seems that the administration just hasn't learned anything and continuously shows disrespect and disregard for the livelihood of our residents who are repeatedly put in this unnecessary position. This can't go on. You hear so many different people. You have legislators, you have clergy, you have a variety of different people asking for your support to stand with them over and over and over again. Something is missing. Do you know that 1 out of 5 citizens don't trust their politicians? 1 out of 5, right? They're like, no, 3 out of 5. This is why, though. This is the issue. We elect politicians to make important decisions that affect our lives. But history reflects that politicians rather focus on their personal interests. And I hope that's not the case here tonight. We're requesting that you table this Acre deal and I want to say something else, but I'm not. All right, we're requesting that we table the Acre deal until the mayor responds to the additional questions that these tenants have. That has to happen. It has to happen. Because with the decision that you make here tonight, somebody's going to pay. Either it's going to be the tenants that pay or the developer's going to pay. Show our people that you care. Show our people that you understand. Show our people that money is not more important than humanity. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak in chambers? Oh, Tyler.
Yeah, hi, my name's Tyler Vanderhaeg. I live at 72 Wall Street. I'm an organizer and a tenant in Kingston. I would just like to again urge the council to listen to all of the people who have come here and shown out yet again for this deal. I'd like to also remind you all that not one person has come to spoke in favor of this deal. That's because the only people who want it are directly going to profit from it. You have people here who are unaffected from this deal, who aren't Stony Run tenants, still coming out to, on behalf of them, to stand with the tenants because this deal is a bad deal, not only for them, for everybody in Kingston. What more of a display could you guys need to hear from people in the city of Kingston? Do you all think you know better than what the people here who are directly telling you how they're affected, that they don't want this deal? Please listen to the people here tonight. Thank you.
Any other speakers?
Hello, guys. Thank you for listening to me. I've been a tenant of Stony Run for 17 years, and the conditions since I've been there has been nothing but having to fight to get anything fixed, having to call the health department, having to call the building inspectors, having to call Kingston Housing Authority, and having nobody to take care of us tenants, to where we have nobody that's there to take care of what needs to be fixed, which we shouldn't have to do this kind of stuff, but that's what we have to do. And to me, I shouldn't have to live somewhere where it's constantly a fight to get something done if you're getting my rent check every month. And now with the increase of 120%, I work for the state of New York. And with what my husband, who's on disability, gets, that's gonna push us out of Stony Run because I won't be able to afford to live there, because of the fact that I don't make that kind of money that everybody is thinking that people around here make, because we don't. And I've lived in Kingston my whole life, and I feel with this 120% AMI is gonna be pushing a lot of people out. I don't wanna leave where I grew up. I don't wanna leave Kingston, but it seems like my hands are gonna be tied. I'm gonna be forced to have to do that. And I feel that with this deal that's going on, we as tenants should be involved in it to make sure that it's not something that's gonna do this to us to where we're not gonna have a place to live and we are gonna be forced to have to move elsewhere. And that's not what I want to do. I wanna stay here. I wanna contribute to Kingston. Just like they say, to be in Kingston and support your local places. How are we gonna do that if we can't afford to live here? It's crazy. And we need to be heard, and we need to speak with the mayor on this. And it's like we're being closed out, and it doesn't matter what we think or what we care about. It's horrible. And something needs to be done with the situation before none of us are living there, because this is not New York City. This is upstate New York. We don't have money like people in New York City have. This is where we live. This is where I want to stay live. This is where I was raised. This is where I want to raise my child. But I'm not going to be able to do that if we don't have some kind of agreement here. And this just needs to stop. It really does. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wishes to address the council? Anybody else who wishes to address the council who has not? And nobody on Zoom? All right, then I will close the public comment period. Moving forward, we're now entering into the report of committees, we're starting with resolution number 58.
Resolution 58 of 2023, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing the mayor to enter into a regulatory agreement with Village Prop Company, LLC, and Kingston Workforce Housing Development Fund Corporation.
The question? Alderman Rennie Scott Childress.
Thank you, President Schott. Two things. I find myself in agreement with many things that folks here have said tonight. The issue before us is the condition of this particular property, but it's also larger than that. And it brings in residents, stakeholders from all across the city of Kingston. I'd like to note first that I've been involved in this issue of housing for a long time. I've been on the council some 8 years now, and it's been the main issue that we focused on since I've been here. I have supported each of the major affordable housing developments that has come across our desks since I've been here. I supported eagerly the development of affordable housing at Energy Square, Landmark Place, the old Alms House, Yasmin Towers, the Governor Clinton, and other places. I have been fighting for the construction of 160 units of affordable and workforce housing at the old jail site on Golden Hill. I work for the Kingston Housing Authority, so I know firsthand the worst struggles that people in this city face with housing. I supported the development of the land bank so we could get houses back on the tax rolls and be made available to people who were buying homes for the first time at affordable rates. I led the fight in the council to adopt good cause legislation. I also fought to get the ETPA adopted here and was closely involved in choosing the members of the Kingston Rent Board. I ran 5 years ago a housing committee that helped to get the ball rolling for talking about housing issues here in the city and looking for solutions. I also supported the development of the Kingstonian as a place where we could create some market rate housing. We've known for a long time there's a crisis in housing here. The city, and I'd like to say too, that I'm fully in support of having the mayor consider in the final solution the items that have been put forth by the tenants union. We'll talk about that a little bit later, I think. The city, members of the Common Council have worked hard to use the tools at our disposal and to innovate new ones to reduce the rent burden on Kingston residents and to prevent property tax increases on homeowners. All along, since I've been here, our two animating goals have been more housing and better protections. More housing and better protections. We, the members of the Common Council, live here. We are your neighbors. We know from painful personal experience the difficulties of rising rents and home prices that have been going up. We know the pain that those can inflict. We have also seen situations like the one presented here tonight where we've ended up in a situation where we are at loggerheads, we're divided, it's an us versus them. It's ended up being a kind of argument between good guys and bad guys, and this is a powerful frame for the movies, but in a situation such as this, it's not very helpful. In fact, I fear it severely clouds the very important issues at stake. It can produce confirmation bias, which I have seen, where people stop listening to alternatives and believe only what comports with their ideas of who is good and who is bad, what is good and what is bad. These decisions are difficult for us. They are extremely difficult. There are impassioned people on all sides. What has been particularly difficult for us has been listening to the several different sides among the Stony Run tenants themselves. All of them that I have talked to are understandably fearful of losing their homes. We know that the immediately previous owners were trying to take as much money out of the project as they could and provided no services and were terrible at being landlords. The landlords before that were based in Virginia and seemed to have very little interest in the quality of life there at Stony Run. Again, interested solely in what money they could pull out of the project. Some of the residents I have talked to have raised concerns about the impact of the proposal before us and have tried to influence it. Some have expressed support for the proposal. Some have switched their positions this way and that way as they have heard more about the issue from different sides, from different folks. We on the Common Council have listened to scores of tenants. We have heard the many stories of poor conditions accreted over time under the earlier management companies. We listened when folks asked for delay to our vote at the March 8th Common Council meeting. We have read and considered a great many written communications and proposed amendments to the current legislation. We have done our due diligence by studying this issue closely, recalling our experience from earlier housing struggles, and considering the present proposal carefully. I can understand why the involved issues are disconcerting. There are lots of moving parts. Unfortunately, this is the case in trying to craft effective responses to difficult problems. The us versus them atmosphere has clouded a number of issues. We received a communication today that referred to the present proposal as a regulatory agreement. In fact, it is statutory. If we pass this tonight and it goes to the mayor for further discussion with the members of the Stony Run Tenants Union, it will then go up to the New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal to establish the regulatory structure. I have heard some folks mistake Acre Properties, a local Hudson Valley-based business, with an international management enterprise based in Norway. I have heard some folks claim that Acre has done no renovations at Stony Run. The owners there, I will tell you what they've said. I know that some of you have had different experiences, and that's probably stands to reason given how bad the situation was when they became the owners. They have testified that when they took over the complex in February 2021, some 40 units were unrentable. They spent months trying to renovate those apartments and bring them back online. Now, of course, they want to make money doing this, but they also have to make money in order to renovate the whole property. They have now renovated over 170 of the 266 units, clearly not all of them. They have also noted that they will provide documentation for these claims for anyone who asks to see it. They've laid out a challenge. I ask you all to take them up on it. From what they say, they aim to return some of the past amenities and develop new ones to return Stony Run to the fine place to live it was before the previous owners. They've listed a number of things like opening the pool again, making it operational, building a new clubhouse with a gym, and doing precisely the infrastructure things that people have complained about. But to do that, they need funding. They have to have funding in order to do that. There are numerous large and small factors that have led them to ask for access to HDFC status from the state and the sources of funding that will provide. I won't go into these because the crucial thing is this. The city, through this legislation, is working with a private owner to transform their property into a publicly regulated, not-for-profit housing provider. This novel approach, yet again, sets Kingston at the forefront of developing options to ensure good, affordable housing for the long term. We are acting on this tonight because Kingston, like so many other towns and cities across the country, is facing a housing crisis. We must not sit by to allow our residents to suffer any more than they have. The aim of this proposal is to protect the stability of tenants' homes, to develop innovative tools for ensuring affordability, and to look for improved housing conditions across the city. We are acting in line with our previous pro-housing agenda. More housing, better protections. The current proposal stipulates that the shift to a HDFC will maintain ETPA protections for all current and future tenants so long as the ETPA is in effect. It will be the rent board that decides rent changes at this facility. The agreement also bars short-term rentals at the property. It does not call for any tax breaks from the city. I see this proposal as very positive for the residents of Stony Run, for tenants in Kingston in general, and for the stability of our community at large. For these reasons, I will vote in favor.
At the beginning of the meeting, I asked you to adhere to decorum rules. I will remind you again, there is no speaking. There's a lot of chatter going on, and unfortunately with this space, it's very distracting because we hear all the whispers, so please keep that down, and none of the jeering yelling at our council members when they have the floor. I don't want to kick anybody out, but if it comes to that, I will have to. Thank you very much for adhering to our rules. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to say just a couple of comments. When we speak about affordable housing, what is good affordable housing? Is it set by a government entity as affordable, or is it set by the affordability of the people that live in our community? So I'm continue to stand with the current and future tenants of Stony Run Apartments. Substantive new information in the form of amendments have been sent to all of us, as we are all aware. And I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules and to adopt the proposed amendments. Thank you.
A motion on the floor to suspend the rules. Is there a second? The motion fails. Anybody else on the question? Sorry, Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch.
I think it's fair to say that the current owners have an unfair advantage over the tenants with the help of the mayor and most of this council in regard to Resolution 58, which allows the mayor to enter into a regulatory agreement unchecked, as per the committee report that passed out of Laws and Rules in February. As equally egregious was not giving tenants a seat at the table with ACRE, the mayor, or the council while all of this was being put into motion. The tenants who were left out of the conversation that affected their homes and security are now trying to play catch up to fix something we may not have the power to fix with a down vote by the majority of the council tonight. A reset is needed to begin fixing this mess that Alderman Scott Childress believes the mayor created, as he stated on the floor on March 7th. This council is also responsible for fixing this mess, and I don't have evidence that we have any power left to do so with the resolution before us tonight, which gives the mayor full authority to negotiate the regulatory agreement. After I hope for a down vote, a new communication needs to be submitted to return a potential regulatory agreement to the appropriate committee, which should actually be the Finance Committee, since this regulatory agreement has been formed under Section 581A of the New York State Real Property Tax Law, which affects the finances of Kingston and the property tax holders as they will receive an as-of-right abatement, tax abatement, which enables the owners to pay property tax on net income instead of the property value. Everyone knows that the owners overpaid by millions on this property, and it is not the taxpayers' responsibility to bail them out. We've all seen the video of the crowdsourcing and intent to flip this property with meat on the bone. The tenants are not in danger of losing their homes because they are protected under the Emergency Tenant Protection Act. Nobody will be put on the street, as has been falsely stated. What I see playing out before us is an attempt to help ACRE maximize their profits while undermining the future of the Emergency Tenant Protection Act in the city of Kingston, which we have only just enacted. Just last week, the Rent Guidelines Board convened again here in chambers, and it was decided that the Attorney General would be representing them on appeal to overturn the decision by the Supreme Court. In the future, this council should be voting only to allow the mayor and to enter into negotiations with parameters that the council helps define and are subject to final approval by council. So the residents in the city of Kingston, in tonight's case, the residents of Stony Run and the city's taxpayers, can be assured that we are doing the right thing for them. What is happening tonight is honestly embarrassing, given the council's continued belief that they are centering the tenants when pushing this through for a vote tonight. Thank you. I will be a no vote.
All right. Yeah, please. Alderman Carl Frankel.
Thank you, Madam President. I have divided my remarks tonight into 3 sections: the deal itself, the negotiating process that got us to the point, and some of the really distressing stuff that's unfolded along the way. To begin at the beginning, and I know that people who are listening aren't going to be happy with this, I strongly support the mayor's agreement with the owners of Stony Run. Obviously, people disagree. Still, I believe that this is a great deal for the tenants. All current protections, including those granted under the ETPA, are retained and additional ones are added. It is also a great deal for the residents of Kingston. We need more workforce housing as well as more affordable housing. Converting Stony Run over time to workforce housing is an important piece of the puzzle. It will help our situation enormously. Now, I have heard what I believe to be lots of information in the public comments tonight. I firmly believe that this is a win for everyone: the City of Kingston, the tenants of Stony Run, the owners of Stony Run, and anyone in the city who is looking to rent affordably. I want to be clear about this. I have heard your doubts, and I have heard your pain. I am moved, genuinely moved by your pain, and the fact is that I do not share your doubts. If I am wrong, and only the future knows if I will be, I will have to live with that. Now let me turn to the negotiating process that got us here.
Again, Carl, I'm sorry to pause you, but please refrain from speaking and jeering. Thank you. This is the last warning.
Now let me turn to the negotiating process that got us here, and specifically to the outcry that it produced. As I understand it, the unhappiness stems from the fact that the tenants union was not brought into the negotiations with Acre. I totally get why this could land as secretive and non-inclusive, but there were good reasons to do so here. For one thing, the discussion started in 2020, long before the tenants union existed. For another thing, the mayor is under no legal obligation to include tenants or a tenants union when he negotiates deals on behalf of the city. Clearly, in a perfect world, the tenants would have been included, but what has unfolded of late tells a compelling tale of how imperfect a world this is. This important deal almost fell through once For the Many and the tenants union became involved. Based on my assessment of the last few weeks, I've come to believe that For the Many actually wanted this deal to fail, or, short of that, that they wanted a deal so weighted in the tenants' favor that Acre would never have consented to it. Bringing parties who oppose a win-win outcome into this negotiation at such a very late juncture would have killed the deal, and that would have benefited no one. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Time truly was of the essence here. This was true before the recent bank failure scare, and it's even more true now. This deal needed to get done fast. If the mayor had to dance with For the Many and the tenants union, as well as with Acre, the pace of negotiations would have slowed enormously. Acre would have walked away, and we'd have ended up with no deal. This would have been the worst outcome of all. The energetics of the past weeks strike me, frankly, as quite odd and a bit inexplicable. The mayor agrees with For the Many on many, many issues, as I do. He and the Common Council have worked with For the Many on several projects in the past, peacefully, with no uproar. The ugliness of the last few weeks has been an exception. I very much hope that it doesn't happen again. To the tenants of Stony Run, I say this: the mayor was working for you throughout the negotiation. He and the Common Council have a proven record, as Rennie Scott-Childress noted, of supporting tenants and working creatively toward housing solutions. We were, for example, the first city in upstate New York to adopt the ETPA. This seems to have been forgotten in the furor of the past weeks. Why would the mayor have a change of heart now? The notion that he was or is anti-tenant makes no sense at all. The likelier explanation, for me, is that you were misinformed. As a number of you, in your anger and upset, have told me that in taking a contrary position to the tenants union, I'm failing in my duty to represent my constituents. I've heard this many times tonight. This is not, for me, a persuasive argument. In deciding something like this, I have to consider 2 variables: the desires of my constituents, all of them, not just the loud ones, and what I believe is best for the city of Kingston now and in the future. This is what I have done, and it has brought me to the position I now hold. If I am wrong, I will have to live with that, as I said. Being on the Common Council is a challenging position, and it is a leadership position. Sometimes the only way to lead is by sailing into the wind. It's not easy, believe me, but sometimes you've just got to do it. To conclude this portion of my remarks, I'd also like to note that the deal has not been finalized. If the Common Council votes in favor of the resolution tonight, we will not be approving the deal as is. We will be authorizing the mayor to finalize the deal using the current deal structure. There will still be room for modest tweaks, and I very much hope that the amendments that have been brought forth to us tonight will be included in the final agreement. Now I come to my last topic, how For the Many played its hand over the course few weeks. And I will be blunt and say that I have been deeply angered and upset by what I've seen transpire. Let me begin by saying that in many ways, I share For the Many's vision about how the world can be made right. What I object to, and what in fact I'm deeply pained by, is how For the Many has chosen to do politics in this instance. Please understand that I offer these comments as constructive criticism. We are all in this together in Kingston and in the world. A guy named Lennon, not John, the other one, famously said, if you want to make omelet, you've got to break a few eggs. Well, For the Many broke some eggs over the last weeks. Some of them I'm just going to skip over, and I hope to sit down with leadership of For the Many and talk to you in person about it. But I will say this. One of the eggs you broke, for me, is the egg of kindness, compassion, and consideration. My colleague Barbara Hill is the alderperson for Ward 2. She has devoted her life to working for progressive causes. She's done fine work on behalf of the people we care about and the values we all share. And yet she has been slandered, insulted, and bullied repeatedly over these last weeks. The vilification she was subjected to at the last Common Council meeting was appalling. She's gotten hate mail that's really ugly. I've seen it. Someone called out Barbara for not being here tonight, and I don't know why she's not here, but I suspect her treatment at the last Common Council meeting may have something to do with it. All this, for me, is on For the Many's shoulders. You started the fire, and it was in your power to put it out. There was no reason whatsoever to attack Barbara except the ancient one of finding a convenient enemy to create solidarity on your side. To put it bluntly, you scapegoated her. This makes me very angry. It was cynical, and it was ugly. I stand in solidarity with Barbara Hill. I want to be clear about this. When you bully her, you're bullying me. And when someone bullies me, I get angry. Please trust me when I tell you, alienating the people you're trying to win over is not a winning strategy. To anyone who attacked Barbara, I urge you to listen to your better angels and give serious thought to apologizing. Because of this behavior and other instances that I'm choosing not to go into right now, I'm afraid I can't see For the Many as they see themselves as agents for positive change. In fact, when I look at their playbook over these past years, I very much see the same old, same old. I see a politics has played out since pretty much forever. I see disregard of the living, breathing individual in the name of an abstract, sounds good concept, in this case, the many. I see cynicism. I see manipulation. I see heartlessness. I see why our political system, our country, and our future are in the sorry states they're in. Breaking eggs is breaking eggs, whether it comes from the left or right, and breaking eggs is how the world breaks bad. I'd like to extend an invitation to For the Many, or perhaps it is a challenge, and please understand, this is serious advice. I'm angry, but I'm not offering it in hostility. I'm offering it in solidarity. If you want to be genuinely progressive, stop playing end justifies the means politics. Instead, commit to being honorable, honest, loving, and kind. This was the way of Gandhi, John Lewis, and Martin Luther King. I urge you to follow their example. As Gandhi himself said, be the change you wish to see in the world. I know you want to win. Well, this is how you win, and probably the only way you can possibly win, given the cultural winds that are against you, by modeling a better way to practice politics. If you were to do so, you would be embracing Albert Einstein's famous dictum, which I agree with, that our problems can't be solved from the same paradigm that created them. Embracing a politics of nonviolence would be truly radical, and it is how you would become truly for the many. Thank you, Madam President.
Bernie Scott Childress. That's who I saw. Rita, did you have your hand up first? Okay, and then Michael did too. So I'll go Rita, Rennie, and Michael. Okay. Alderwoman Rita Worthington, please.
Thank you, Madam President. So I didn't write any comments down. I didn't come in here with any written comments because I wanted to come in with just a kind of a clean slate to listen to the tenants, hear where they were coming from. I must say that I am a little disappointed with the feedback that we've been getting as far as this council has not allowed any transparency. This council has not listened to the tenants. We've been called everything except for a child of God. But it is for that very reason that we're here tonight, is because we did listen to the tenants. The last meeting that we had, council meeting, they asked that we delay the vote so they can have a meeting with the mayor and that they can discuss some of these things. And we delayed the vote so that could happen. So I do think that we are listening to the tenants. It's unfortunate that in any agreement and anything that we do, any vote that we do, we're not going to make everyone happy. It's not going to always go the way that everyone wants it to go. I'm not going to reiterate what Alderman Scott Childress said about this council voting for just about every important housing issue that has come before us that had to do with tenant protections. Many of us understand what it is to be a tenant. Maybe some of my council members don't, but I do. I was a tenant for a very long time and had to deal with high rents and displacement. And so I certainly understand. I'm worried about what the alternative might be, though, if we do not pass this agreement. Many of you have spoken about the unsafe conditions. What's the alternative if the agreement doesn't go through? Do those unsafe conditions continue? Do you not get a safe environment to live in? And so, you know, and I also, I want to back call Alderman Franco up on the disrespect that was shown to Barbara Hill, Alderwoman for Ward 1. It was very unnecessary. We sit here meeting after meeting, and we listen to all of our constituents come in. They talk to us. You all get to say whatever you want, and we are not allowed to speak back to you. I think it is very disrespectful that name calling is happening. We have tried our best to be respectful to you, to listen. Anybody that knows me, that I'm not going to go head on with you as far as empty remarks and disrespectful remarks going back. I would like to be shown the same courtesy, and hopefully going forward that will happen. Now, I will be voting yes for this regulatory agreement. However, I do agree with the amendments that have been proposed by the organizing committee, and I am hopeful, and I do hope that those amendments will be incorporated into the agreement. With that said, you know, it is our position that we take into consideration all of the comments. Somebody said that no one has talked to the tenants about this agreement, that we have not even seen the regulatory agreement. That is false. I have seen it personally. I've talked to tenants, and I know that Barbara Hill has been to Stony Run, and she has also talked to some of the tenants. And so I think that was a unfair assessment. And so again, I'm hoping that the amendments that were proposed will be incorporated into this agreement. Thank you.
Bernie Scott Childress. Your
Thank you.
last speech was 9 minutes. You have 6.
First, I want to note the reason Barbara Hill is not here tonight is because she is on a long planned trip, something that was very expensive to purchase. And so this meeting was also, not on our regular calendar. So she is not here tonight because of this pre-planned event that she has been on her schedule for months and months. I'd also like to join in and say I've been deeply disturbed at the attacks on her. She has been involved with the Stony Run tenants at the very beginning. She was very much there for the tenants at the very beginning. She might have had some disagreements with folks, but this is the sort of thing that instead of choosing sides and villainizing people, our goal should be to say, what are the issues here? What can we agree to? What are the important things we have to know in order to move forward? That's how I've tried to approach this particular issue. I'd also like to point out the misstatement earlier. This agreement that we're looking at tonight does not give the mayor full authority to negotiate the agreement. In fact, at our last Common Council meeting, this body voted on specific limitations. There are also a number of limitations in the whereas clauses. These are things that guide the ultimate proposal. We also want to keep in mind that this has to go further up to the state level where they will develop the regulatory agreement. So this is a process. This is just the first part. Tenants will have, involvement. The mayor has agreed to meet with folks. I hope that he does that even sooner. I'd be happy if he did it tonight, but that's up to the mayor and the tenants of Stony Run. I also would like to perfectly agree, yes. No tenants have to worry about being hounded out of their homes because of some regulatory aspect here. Instead, our concern is that the complex will further deteriorate. The whole point of trying to get this going is so that the people who own the complex now are able to bring in the funding to do precisely the things, fix the things that you have complained about. This is our concern, to help you get better housing where you are without having to move, without having to worry about excessive rate increases. We want to reemphasize the agreement says that all current and future tenants of Stony Run, their rents will be regulated by the housing board here in Kingston. All right? So as long as the ETPA is in effect, you don't have to worry about the sorts of things somebody was mentioning, 120% increase in rents. Not going to happen. Thank you.
Michael Oliveri.
Thank you, Madam President. So there are two things I'm going to just talk about tonight. First is in relation to Alderwoman Hill. The disrespect and blatant lies are two things that I do not tolerate. The hate, the lies, and the vileness that has been directed to Alderwoman Hill is a tremendous disappointment. This woman deeply cares about the residents of Stony Run. She has dedicated her blood, sweat, and tears to ensuring the residents of her ward, and especially Stony Run, have their voices heard and are fairly represented. And shame on those who have attacked her personally. And the second part is regarding tonight. We've heard many times that the council has been careless in not speaking with residents. Some of us have spoken with them, and when we explain what the deal really is about, the residents we speak with are in favor of it. I was a resident of Stony Run. I do know the conditions some currently live in because I also lived in those conditions. The misinformation being spoken here tonight is truly disheartening. And again, to touch on what Rennie was talking about, yes, Alderwoman Hill was not present today at this special meeting because she already had plans, and this meeting was not part of that agenda when she made those plans. Thank you.
Alderman Tony Davis.
Yes, I just want to reiterate what people have been saying, that we haven't listened. And I believe at the last council meeting, I was one of the people that listened. I have voted to send this back because I heard, and we heard from many tenants of Stony Run that didn't have an opportunity to read this agreement or to have a meeting with the mayor. And it was said that they weren't going to be able to meet with their lawyers until the end of the month. So I said, I'll be one of those people that pass to give them time. The mayor put out an open letter to the Stony Run Tenants Union, and the reply was, we're not going to talk to you. On top of that, you said that you could not, it was said here at the March 7th meeting that you would not be able to meet with your lawyers until the end of the month. But then it was received, everybody received a letter, as well as a Freeman, the day before the special finance meeting, that you met with your lawyer. And he went over, or she went over it, and had some information that you wanted to discuss. So we have listened to you. You stated that you wanted to speak to the mayor about this. The mayor gave an open invitation, and at that time, we would say that we're not going to meet with the mayor until we meet with our lawyer. And then before the special finance meeting, our laws and rules meeting, you met with the lawyer. So you met with the lawyer after you stated that you would not be able to meet with him until the end of the month. Right? So we have listened. Right? We have listened to you. We've all read your letters that you sent, the phone calls that you've sent and called us on. We don't take this lightly. And it's not like we're up here and we're like, well, we just got all the power and we want to do this and that. I don't think anybody up here is in regard to that. We didn't join to be all the people just so we could have the power and do what we wanted to do. Right? We came here because we wanted to make Kingston better. We wanted to listen to our constituents. We wanted to do the best for the city of Kingston. That's what I wanted to do, the best for the city of Kingston and the people that live here. We're not always going to agree on every situation, right? We have a lot of people here come out tonight, but other meetings and other situations, we don't see many of us, right? Someone said about open dialogue and having, a picnic or everything like that. We would love to see you guys come here all the time and make your comments about other issues. And we all have, all of us have had put out there to have meetings with our constituents at various locations in our wards. And we get very seldom do we get many people showing up. And then people come to these meetings and then they want to criticize all the people that we don't listen to them, we don't try to reach out to you, we don't want to talk to you. That's false. We're here for you. Any of my constituents that calls me on their phone and leaves a message, I'm going to get back to them. They might not like the answer, but I'm going to get back to them. And that's all we could do. So again, I was one of the people on March 7th to say, let's send it back so they could have more time to read it and to discuss with the mayor. And I was disappointed when the mayor sent that open letter and the reply was, we're not talking to you. We're not talking to you. Now you're talking about, it's been things about sending it back again so we can have, and the mayor still has it, that hopefully March the 22nd or whatever this month that you're going to speak to him. But then, oh, no, we got things, we want to send it back so we can speak to the mayor. So then we go into April. And then it goes to committee in April. Then it's got to come back in May to caucus and common council to vote on it. I just don't understand. If you're paying for a lawyer, and I believe it's out of New York City, you must be spending a lot of money for that lawyer. He or she should be able to, when you call, be able to answer the questions that you guys need. Thank you.
Alderman Steve Shabbat, and then Alderwoman Naima Mohammed.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a couple thoughts here. Listens to everybody speak, and everybody's been very eloquent, and I'm sure more eloquent than I'm going to be here. But I've been on the council for a number of years. And before I ran the first time, I got to tell you, you don't envision scenarios like this where there's a topic that's very divisive and polarizing, but it's part of the game. You learn that pretty quick. Within my first year or two, Chambers was packed, with one controversial subject after another. And not that it's always easy, but you learn it's part of the process. And, I appreciate it when people are here to be part of the process. That being said, I I have had the occasion to speak to Barbara Hill, and I know she feels bad about this. And certainly over the years, I've had my moments where I've been called out here, by somebody standing here saying something that's absolutely not true about me. But, it's uncomfortable that you cannot say anything back. That's the rules here. We have to sit here and take it. And okay, I get that. That's part of the game. But I know Barbara felt bad, and I will say I'm sure Barbara didn't ask me to speak in her behalf, and I'm sure she didn't ask anybody else to speak on her behalf. As Alderman Davis says, I think we're all pretty open. I get phone calls quite frequently. I always return my phone calls, and we speak quite openly. And as Tony says, it's not always what they want to hear, but the bottom line is we have to do what we feel is the right thing. Tonight is another one. We're going to have to do what we feel is the right thing, But I'm sitting here listening tonight, and I'm hearing so many people that are unhappy with the conditions at Stony Run, and certainly I've heard it over and over again. In my opinion, this is a chance to rectify this. And I've said it on many, many occasions here when we're discussing things and voting on things. And I like to say, if not this, then what? So, if this doesn't happen, we don't know what's going to happen at Stony Run. I mean, my opinion, as I said, is strictly my opinion, and as Mr. Frankel says, we're sometimes wrong on our opinions, that's for sure. But I think this is a step in the right direction to get Stony Run up to be, as somebody said, one of the nicest places to live in this community for years and years. And we would like to see that back again. I'm sure that's not my opinion. I think everybody wants that to be a place we can be proud of again. I think this is a direction to take. All right, so I will be in favor of the resolution that is going forward tonight. And, I hope everything works out, and, I hope everyone is happy with what I consider to be a solution. Thank you.
Alderwoman Naima Mohammed.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to say thank you for everyone coming out. I wasn't going to say anything because it's almost redundant, but I wanted to say thank you for everyone coming out and stating their opinions and the facts and all the things, and I absolutely love the energy. I have no personal gain in this resolution. I am a yes for this. I'm not running again, and I want to make it very clear that this is a very hard role. This is my first term, and it's unbelievable. I'm not running again. I'm not doing this again. And I say that to say, if the opportunity comes up again and I have the space to do it, I will do it. But I want to reiterate that on every level of politics, it can be an organization, there's limits, right? And then you have to kind of work within that space. And I think everyone understands that here, but the emotions are high and all of the things, right? But if you take a step back and think about and have empathy for each role here, I think there's more room to be more empathetic and more understanding. No one's going to be happy. There's been very hard votes when I first came in, the Kingstonian, I had to vote for that. That was absolutely insane. But then as I sat here more and more, and my peers were able to educate me a little more, you're like, you have to make decisions that are going to be tough all the time. I have great hope that this is going to work out and that the tenants will see that the money that is going to be agreed upon, the agreement that is going to be in your favor, and that these conditions can be improved. That is my hope. So I just wanted to say that again, thank you again. And to the woman that said about the cookouts and outreach, I think that's a great idea. And when the word that I kept hearing is transparency, and I believe that politics need to be more transparent. Absolutely. And moving forward, I hope that's something that we can implement and really work on, outreach. And then on behalf of my sis, Barbara Hill, I mean, I'm not going to be redundant again, but she's putting in a lot of work. I can say that. I work full time. There's people here that work full time. She knows my schedule. She's calling me 10 minutes in between my sessions to inform me. I'm texting Rita. I'm texting this. So she is putting in the work. But at the end of the day, if you don't agree with somebody, that's the line. You don't agree. You can keep saying that over and over again. But to bash someone, that's untasteful and it's not classy at all. And it's never received, ever. And again, what I'm going to say is I'm a yes for this, and there's no personal gain, and I am hopeful that this is going to work in your favor because living conditions are very important. If you don't have good living conditions, the level of self-actualization and what you want to do sometimes is not attainable because you're worrying about flooding in your bathroom. I get that. So my hope is that that is relieved with this agreement, and that's all I have to say. And I want to thank the council for backing each other up, and hopefully there's a better dialogue in the future about this kind of stuff. Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing no more discussion, I will actually, Lisa, can you just read the heading of Resolution 58 again, and then I'll call for the vote.
Resolution 58 of 2023. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing the mayor to enter into a regulatory agreement with Village Prop Company, LLC, and Kingston Workforce Housing Development Fund Corporation.
All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 7-1. The no vote is Michelle Hirsch. Rennie Scott Childress.
President Schott, I move to suspend the rules for the purpose of considering a resolution.
There's a motion to suspend the rules. Is there a second? Second by Tony Davis. All in favor to suspend the rules? Opposed? Passes 7-1. Our rules are suspended. Rennie, would you like to make a motion? Is your mic on?
Sorry. Should I read it, or will the clerk read it?
You should read what you would like this motion to be, please.
Whereas the Common Council of the City of Kingston desires to see a beneficial outcome for the tenants of Stony Run as a result of the authorization we have provided to the mayor in Resolution 58 of 2023, and whereas the Stony Run Tenants Association submitted a set of amendments to the proposal on 21 March 2023, and whereas the Kingston Common Council recognizes that while the current proposal as of 22 March 2023 is virtually complete, there will be a further process involving the mayor of the City of Kingston, the Acre Management, and the New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal in establishing the Housing Development Fund Corporation envisioned in the proposal. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York as follows. Section 1. That the Common Council of the City of Kingston hereby urges the mayor to give due consideration to the amendments proposed by the Stony Run Tenants Association as submitted by them on 21 March 2023. Provide detailed commentary for adopting and declining the amendments as mentioned above, such commentary to be shared promptly with both the Stony Run Tenants Association and the Common Council, and require Acre to submit monthly reports of the progress of the HDFC process to the Stony Run Tenants Association and the President of the Common Council for 12 months from the date of this resolution.
That's a motion. Is there a second? Second by Carl Frankel. So this is to present this to the council once we go back in order, and then we'll call for the vote. So second, to adopt this to send to the council floor. So there is a second. So now I'm calling for the vote. Sorry, I'm stumbling. This is the first time doing this. Stumbling through my way. So we have a motion, a second. This vote is for bringing this into order so that we could then vote on it. Anybody need clarification? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-1. We're now back in order. Lisa, can you just not the heading, just
Resolution 64 of 2023. Whereas the Common Council of the City of Kingston desires to see a beneficial outcome for the tenants of Stony Run as a result of the authorization we have provided to the mayor in Resolution 58 of 2023. And whereas the Stony Run Tenants Association submitted a set of amendments to the proposal on 21 March 2023. And whereas the Kingston Common Council recognizes that while the current proposal as of 22 March 2023 is virtually complete, there will be a further process involving the mayor of the city of Kingston and Acre Management and the New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal in establishing the Housing Development Fund Corporation envisioned in the proposal. And now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York as follows. Section 1, that the Common Council of the City of Kingston hereby urges the mayor to give due consideration to the amendments proposed by the Stony Run Tenants Association as submitted by them on 21 March of 2023, provide detailed commentary for adopting or declining the amendments mentioned above, such commentary to be shared promptly with both the Stony Run Tenants Association and the Common Council, and require Acre to submit monthly reports of the progress of the HDFC process to the Stony Run Tenants Association and the President of the Common Council for 12 months from the date of this resolution.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. That concludes our communications for the evening. Does anybody else have anything? Alderman Tony Davis and then Alderman Michael Oliveri.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to close this meeting and, thinking back when, what we've just gone through. Life's short. You never know when you're going to pass away. So I'd like to end this meeting in memory of my Uncle John and David Armstrong, Sr. of Kingston, New York, who sadly left us on Sunday, March 5th, 2023 at 12:46 a.m. Son of the late Ethel and Holbert Armstrong, John Sr. was born in Kingston, New York on January 5th, 1935. He is survived by his loving wife, Shirley Armstrong, his 5 children, Brian, Sonia, Sylvia, Sheila, and John Jr., his brother, Holbert Armstrong Jr., and countless grandchildren, grandchildren. John Sr. was the ultimate family man, a lover of baseball, when always there to lend a helping hand to those in need. In the younger days, you could always find him attending to the Armstrong family garden, home of the best tomatoes in Kingston. John Sr. was a veteran, worked at IBM for 35 years, and was truly loved and respected by all who knew him. Our family is grateful to know that John Sr. and our father is finally at peace. Service will be held this Saturday, March the 25th at 10 a.m. Thank you, at Kaiser Funeral Home.
Thank you. My condolences, Tony. Alderman Michael Oliveri.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to close this meeting in remembrance of Police Officer Richard Buddy Krakowski. Officer Krakowski, a United States Navy veteran, was hired by the Ulster Police Department in 1994, first as a dispatcher and then becoming a police officer in 1996 at the age of 42. Officer Krakowski, Buddy, as everyone knew him, was well known and loved throughout the town and could regularly be found stopping at one of our local coffee shops for a fresh cup of coffee between calls. He was always willing to help and would work when no one else would. Officer Krakowski served the Ulster Police Department until his retirement in 2011, where he went on to serve with the Ulster County Sheriff's Office. I thank him for his service, and we will deeply miss him.
Thank you. Alderwoman Rita Worthington.
Thank you. I'd like to close this session in remembrance of Tamara M. Williams. She was only 49, and she was of Kingston. She died unexpectedly on Sunday, March 12th, 2023. She was born October 30th, 1973 in Kingston, New York. She was the daughter of Willard Eugene Williams Sr. and Bertha Mae Knox. In addition to her parents, Willard Eugene Williams Sr. and Bertha Mae Knox, she is survived by her daughter, Mariah James. And I did have the honor of knowing Tamara very well. She was full of life, always helping, always laughing, and always just extending a hand. And you're right, life is short. She was only 49. She is also the cousin of Alderwoman Naima Muhammad, so we do extend our sympathies and our condolences to you. And visitation and services will take place on Saturday, March 25th at the Riverview Baptist Church from 1 p.m. to 2, and then the homegoing celebration will be held at 2 p.m. Thank you.
My condolences, Naima. Alderman Rennie Scott Childress.
I would like to close this meeting in honor of Vincent Van Bramer, 87 years old, of Kingston. He died on the 1st of March of this month. He was born in Kingston, 1935, and he went to Kingston High School in 1952. He served in the Army, went to SUNY New Paltz, where he got a Bachelor of Science in Education, and then he worked in the Kingston Consolidated School District for 36 years. He was a gifted educator and touched many students' lives. He was active in the community, volunteering and serving in many different capacities, such as being a board member at the Ulster Performing Arts Center. He was also a member of the Kiwanis Club and other organizations. He has been a really important member of the Kingston community, in Ward 3 in particular, and we will greatly miss him.
Thank you. Anybody else? And then I will take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Michael Oliveri, second by Naima Mohammed. All in favor? We are hereby stand adjourned until the next regularly scheduled meeting on